Have you ever sat across from her and felt the weight of silence? Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that echoes with the truth you don't want to face. You know, deep in your heart, you weren't her first choice. You weren't the one she daydreamed about. You weren't the one she spoke about with stars in her eyes. And still, you tried to be enough. You gave her time. You gave her attention. You gave her consistency. But no matter what you did, something in her presence told you, you're just ... They're an option, not the one. Not yet. But let me speak to you now, not to the version of you that's tired, but to the version of you that's buried under that pain. Because you don't have to stay in that place. You don't have to keep being good enough for someone who hasn't yet seen your worth. You don't have to stay second. There is a power within you that you've allowed the world and perhaps even yourself to forget. And today, it's time to rise again. You see, the problem isn't always that she doesn't value you. Often, the problem is that you've never positioned yourself where her soul could see you. You've been nice. You've been consistent. But you've lacked the energy that commands attention, the energy that makes her stop in her tracks and feel something real. Because no woman remembers who simply checked the boxes. She remembers the man who made her feel a storm in silence. Now hear me clearly. This is not about manipulation. This isn't about tricks or tactics. This is about transformation. You don't need to change her mind, you need to change your posture. You've been walking in the shadow of other men she once chose because you keep measuring yourself by their standards. But let me tell you, when you finally become the man God intended you to be, steadfast, grounded, led by purpose and power, her past will not be able to compare to your presence. What does it take to move from an option to the choice? It takes stillness in your spirit. It takes self-respect that doesn't beg for her affection. It takes a presence that doesn't have to announce itself because it is felt. Women are intuitive. They know when they're in the presence of a man who is rooted, not reaching. A man who leads not with control, but with conviction. A man who isn't desperate to be chosen, but is deeply aligned with who he is. And let me say this plainly, you do not have to fight to be seen. The moment you stop proving and start becoming, her vision will adjust. She will begin to look at you not with casual interest, but with growing curiosity. She will start to notice the things she missed while chasing empty excitement. Because excitement fades but presence endures, purpose lingers. And when you become that man, she won't just notice. She'll remember. And she'll wonder why she didn't see you sooner. You cannot lead her soul if you haven't first mastered your own. You can't expect her to feel something you haven't built inside you yet. So I ask you today, are you ready to stop waiting? Are you ready to rise not for her validation, but for your own revelation? Are you ready to become the man that God, life, and love have been calling you to be all along? The one who walks without fear because he knows who he is? Because once you do that, once you carry yourself with the quiet strength of purpose, everything changes. She may not have picked you first, but when you become the kind of man she can't forget, it won't matter what her past looks like. Because the man who awakens her soul, who leads with love and unwavering strength, that man becomes her only choice. The truth you're afraid to hear is the one that burns quietly inside your chest every time she laughs a little too hard at someone else's joke or glances a little too long at another man. You feel it not just in her words, but in what she doesn't say. In the way she compares you without meaning to. In the way she hesitates when she's asked how she feels about you. And though she might not say it aloud, you know, you weren't her first choice. That truth stings. It doesn't just hurt your pride. It questions your very sense of worth. Because when you truly care about someone, when you invest your time, your energy, your heart, you want to be the one who lights up her eyes, not the one she settled for after the fireworks faded with someone else. It's a heavy realization. And most men try to silence it. They try to ignore it, bury it under more effort, more affection, more proving. But no matter how much you give, if the foundation of her love is comparison, you'll always feel like you're chasing a ghost trying to outrun someone who left before you arrived. This pain isn't weakness, it's honesty. And the men who have the strength to confront it are the ones who learn how to rise above it. Because truth has power. When you admit to yourself that you're not where you want to be in her heart, you create the space to grow into the man who deserves to be. But let's be clear, this is not about resentment. It's not about bitterness toward her or the ones who came before you. It's about turning inward and realizing that the version of you who feels small in this moment is not the final version. That feeling of being unwanted, unseen, undervalued, it's not permanent. It's a wake-up call. It's life asking you to evolve. Most men try to compete with her past. They study what he had that they didn't. They try to be louder, more charming, more available. But the truth is, she didn't choose him first because he was better. She chose him because he made her feel something you haven't tapped into. Yet, it wasn't about status. It was about impact. And here's the opportunity. You don't need to replicate someone else's effect. You need to discover your own. You need to become the man who walks into the room and brings calm, certainty, purpose. Not because you're performing, but because you've done the inner work that gives birth to quiet power. Women can feel that energy. It doesn't scream it. It moves differently. It commands attention without demanding it. And when you carry that, you stop trying to be her first choice and start becoming the best choice. The one she didn't know her soul needed until she saw it in you. You are not her first choice, not because you are not good enough. Not because you lack potential, and certainly not because you're unworthy of love. You are not her first choice because of where you've positioned yourself in her mind. Understand this. People respond not just to what we do, but to the energy we carry, the image we allow them to hold of us. And whether you realize it or not, you have allowed yourself to stand in a place where you are tolerated, not treasured. You've shown up. Yes, you've been consistent, available, loyal, but you've also been forgettable. And it's not because you don't have value. It's because you've hidden the parts of yourself that command reverence. You've played it safe, thinking that kindness alone would win her over, that presence alone would build desire. But presence without power is invisible. Kindness without strength is overlooked. You've positioned yourself as the easy one, the convenient one, the one who won't rock the boat, and in doing so, you've robbed her of the chance to see the man you were born to be. People do not chase comfort, they chase emotion, intensity, the unfamiliar electricity of someone who knows who they are. You may have been thinking that being dependable would secure your place in her life. And while dependability is noble, it is not magnetic. What pulls a woman's soul is not a man who waits patiently on the sidelines, it's the man who walks with the gravity of purpose. It's the man who doesn't beg for her to see him differently, but becomes someone impossible to ignore. It's the man who never lowers himself to be chosen, but lifts himself to the place where he chooses his own worth, regardless of who acknowledges it. You don't need to prove your worth to her. You need to reveal it to yourself first. When you operate from that place of grounded identity, everything about how she sees you begins to shift. The truth is, you can't force someone to value you, but you can stop giving them the version of you that's small, hesitant, self-doubting. You can stop leaning on their recognition to validate your significance. You can reposition yourself from being the background support character to the leading force in your own story. And that shift? It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's subtle, spiritual, internal. She doesn't fall for the man who waits. She falls for the man who moves forward with intention. She doesn't rethink her first choice because of what you say. She rethinks it when she senses the power you found that you once buried under self-sacrifice. Because a woman's heart is drawn not just to security, but to certainty, and certainty only lives in a man who no longer doubts the fire in his spirit, no matter how long he was overlooked. She doesn't respond to your words as much as you think she does. She hears them, yes. But what truly stirs her, what captures her attention and lodges itself in her memory, are the silent signals you send when you're not speaking. The way you carry yourself when no one's watching. The way your eyes hold steady when everyone else breaks. The stillness in your spirit when the world is frantic. These are the signals that move her. Because while many men shout their worth, only a few carry it like a quiet fire. And it's those few who make her heart lean in without even knowing why. She may not consciously understand it, but her soul does. When a man is anchored, she feels safe in his orbit. When a man is driven by a code, not by chaos, she finds herself drawn in, not by choice, but by instinct. That's the secret most never tell you. Attraction is emotional first, energetic second, and logical last. If you're not awakening her emotionally, if you're not creating gravity with your presence, no amount of proving or pleasing will secure her interest. You've probably been told to be nice, to be respectful, to be consistent. And those things are important. But let me tell you what they don't tell you, none of that matters if you're forgettable. Women remember what makes them feel something unforgettable. And emotion isn't always born in grand gestures, it's born in energy. It's born in the subtle confidence of a man who knows who he is, even if she doesn't see it yet. It's in the way you enter a room, not trying to take it over, but radiating a quiet command that draws eyes without effort. That's what. Women respond to energy that doesn't need validation. Because a man who doesn't seek approval holds a mysterious kind of power. And mystery ignites attraction far faster than predictability ever will. When you operate from stillness, from clarity, from direction, your entire presence becomes a signal. She may not notice it right away, but something inside her starts to shift. She starts to pay closer attention, not because you demanded it, but because the atmosphere changed when you walked in. She's not looking for noise. She's scanning for signals. She's trying to feel what words can't explain. She wants to know, do you know where you're going? Do you carry peace or pressure? Are you chasing her, or are you becoming a man so compelling she starts wondering if she ever really saw you before? And the most powerful truth? When you align your energy with authenticity, when you let go of trying to impress and instead become deeply grounded in who you are, you don't have to chase her attention anymore. She'll feel it, she'll wonder about it. And when a woman starts wondering about a man's spirit, his strength, his silence, that's when everything changes. You don't need to chase her. In fact, the more you chase, the more you confirm her belief that you are the one who's trying to earn a place she's not even offering yet. But here's the truth, your value is not in pursuit. Your value is in presence. When you transform from being the man who constantly tries to prove himself into the man who simply lives in alignment with his deeper identity, you stop chasing her and start attracting her. Attraction doesn't come from effort alone, it comes from elevation. Women feel drawn to men who are ascending, who are growing, who are walking in vision. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel like she's stepping into the gravity of something greater when she connects with a man. She doesn't want to lead your life. She wants to walk beside someone who already knows where he's going. That's where most men fail. They try to impress her with gestures, words, money, attention, but none of that matters if your energy is still begging for approval. Women don't fall in love with acts. They fall in love with essence. They fall in love with the feeling of being in the presence of someone who cannot be shaken. A man who doesn't flinch when she pulls away. A man who doesn't react with insecurity when she hesitates. A man who remains rooted because he knows who he is without needing her to agree. And when she sees that, When she feels that, something changes inside her. She begins to look at you not as an option, not as the safe guy, but as a force. A man who is going somewhere, with or without her. If she didn't choose you first, that's okay. This is not about rewriting the past. This is about owning your place in the present. If she overlooked you, maybe it's because you were dimming your own light to make her more comfortable. Maybe you were trying to fit her idea of what a man should be. But you're not here to shrink to be chosen. You're here to expand until you are impossible to ignore. And the man who embraces that mindset, the man who stops waiting for permission to be powerful, is the one who rises from overlooked to unforgettable. She will notice. Maybe not immediately, maybe not dramatically, but she will feel the shift. And it's not just about how she sees you, it's about how the world starts responding to you. Because when you begin to move differently, people sense it. You speak with more purpose. You act with more conviction. You stop entertaining what doesn't align with your growth. That's when she looks again. That's when she questions her assumptions. That's when she wonders if maybe she missed something she should have seen the first time. Because now, you don't just walk in with hope, you walk in with identity. And identity is magnetic. You don't need to compete. You don't need to compare yourself to the ones who came before you, or the ones she once thought she wanted. The men she chased in the past, the ones she chose before you, they served a purpose. Maybe they thrilled her. Maybe they gave her attention. Maybe they broke her. But they are not your standard. They are not your blueprint. If you're trying to be better than them, you're still letting them define the game. You don't win by playing their game, you win by walking away from it altogether. You don't step into leadership by trying to impress. You step into leadership by embodying something deeper than she has ever known. Because leadership is not about having control over her. It's about having mastery over yourself. When you stop competing and start leading, everything shifts. Leading means you set your own pace. It means you don't need to chase her attention, because you are moving with such clarity and direction that she feels drawn toward your path. You're not trying to outshine the ones who had her before you. You're building a light so strong that those comparisons simply fade. The problem is, most men look at who she liked before and think, what did he have that I don't? But the real question is, what do I have that I haven't shown yet? You've been trying to win her affection when you should have been focused on becoming the man who doesn't need to be chosen to feel powerful. There's a quiet strength in men who lead with purpose. They don't rush, they don't beg. They don't broadcast their worth, they demonstrate it through consistency, vision, and calm confidence. A woman watches how a man handles pressure. She notices how he responds when he doesn't get what he wants. And if you crumble the moment you feel rejection, you show her that your value is built on her approval. But if you hold steady, if you continue building your life, your body, your faith, your mission, with or without her applause, you show her something that no other man could, that you are already whole. And here's what most people miss. A woman can be impressed by charm, but she will only feel safe with strength. Not aggression, not control, but emotional, spiritual, and mental strength. The kind of strength that doesn't panic when things get uncertain. The kind that stays grounded when feelings fluctuate. And when she sees that, when she feels that calm in your spirit, you stop being the man who's trying to get her, and you become the man she doesn't want to risk losing. Not because you chased her, but because you built something she wants to be a part of. That is the real shift from a man who competes for a place in her life, to a man who creates a life so rich, she realizes no one before you ever really stood a chance. There's a truth most men don't fully grasp until it's too late. She can't forget what moves her soul. You might think it's about how attractive you are, how much you do for her, how many compliments you give, or how available you've made yourself, but none of That lingers in her heart unless it touches something deeper. You can be the most well-mannered man, the most respectful, the most giving, and still remain second in her heart if you never stirred something sacred inside her. Women forget ease. They forget routine. But they never forget the feeling of being around someone who shook their spirit in a way they couldn't explain. The man who made her feel safe and alive at the same time. The one who didn't just show up but reached something inside her no one else could. And the reason she doesn't see you that way yet is not because you're missing something. It's because you haven't activated it within yourself. You want to be unforgettable to her? Then you must live and breathe with depth. You must begin to connect with your own soul before you ever hope to reach hers. Most men are walking through life surface deep, thinking that affection and attention are enough to earn devotion. But real devotion comes from impact. It comes from being a man who has wrestled with himself, who has faced the dark places, who has fought through doubt, insecurity, silence, and still stood with an unshakable heart. A woman recognizes that she may not be able to explain it, but she feels it, because that kind of man doesn't just love, he awakens. What moves her soul isn't perfection, it's presence. It's the way your eyes carry both fire and peace. It's the way your voice calms storms. It's the way your actions speak louder than your promises. And most importantly, it's the way you make her feel seen, not just as a woman, but as a soul. When you become the kind of man who listens deeply, speaks intentionally, acts with purpose, and loves with strength, she starts to feel safe surrendering. Not just her time, her spirit. That's the moment the game changes. That's when you go from someone she respects or even likes to someone she can't stop thinking about at 2 a.m. When the world is quiet, you have to understand something deep and unchanging. She may have had feelings for others before you. She may have been drawn to louder personalities, more dramatic moments, fleeting excitement, but none of that lasts. What lasts is the man who knew who he was and didn't need her attention to validate it. What lasts is the connection that speaks without words. If you can touch her in that place, the place beyond her image, beyond her expectations, you don't just become memorable, you become irreplaceable. Because she might forget what you said. She might forget what you wore. But she'll never forget how you made her feel when no one else could reach her the way you did, Dad. So now you know. You weren't her first choice, and maybe that reality has haunted you for far too long. Maybe it made you question your value. Maybe it made you shrink your presence, dim your light, and doubt your voice. But what you needed wasn't her validation. What you needed was the awakening that pain brings. Because pain has a way of pointing us to purpose. That heartbreak you felt, that sting of not being chosen first, it wasn't the end. It was the invitation. The invitation to rise, to rebuild, to become a man who doesn't need to be chosen to know his worth. A man who doesn't compete but leads. A man who doesn't chase, but becomes so grounded in who he is that the right hearts begin to move toward him without force. You don't have to be the loudest man in the room. You don't have to wear masks or play games to be seen. You just have to become real, so real that she feels you even when you're silent. So present in your purpose that she questions how she ever overlooked you. Because here's the beautiful truth. A woman may not remember the one who did everything right, but she will never forget the man who awakened something true inside her. This is not about revenge. It's not about proving her wrong. It's about becoming so deeply aligned with your calling, your mission, your character, that whether she chooses you now, later, or never, you remain unmoved. Because you have chosen yourself. Because your soul has finally come home to the strength it was meant to walk in. The kind of strength that doesn't need permission to be powerful. The kind of strength that attracts rather than begs. The kind of strength that no longer asks, "Why didn't she choose me?" but instead declares, I was never meant to be anyone's second. I was born to be whole. So stand tall, man of purpose. Walk in the quiet fire of your becoming. And remember, she may not have picked you first, but by the time you finish becoming who you were always meant to be, she won't be able to imagine choosing anyone else. The past may have overlooked you, but your future will never forget you. That's how you change everything. And that's how you stop being the forgotten choice and start becoming the unforgettable one.